Bum, bum, bum. I'm not doing that intro anymore. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. This is the new PXG driver here. I just got it delivered because PXG is basically something you can only order direct from the manufacturer. I do want to thank PXG for sending me over $100,000 of equipment. I'm just kidding. No one's sending me anything. Listen, PXG has some people that they love representing their stuff, and they also tolerate people that send them their own hard-earned money to buy their stuff, and that's me. So, no affiliation with PXG. I have liked the stuff that I've gotten from them before, but as you can see, this shirt says PVP, not PXG. So listen, this is what it comes like. It's not unlike any other club you buy from PXG, but I have not even taken a look at this yet. Let's take a look at it real time. This is their new Gen 4 driver, but it's a driver that I have never seen a video about before, at least not in any real detail. And it's a specific model that not a lot of people are trying for, I think, a lot of obvious reasons. You've never played like this before. And here is the driver. And I got it in the Riptide shaft right there, 50 gram regular flex. It's got the PXG standard grip on it. So we get a tool right there. I'm not going to go through all the paperwork and everything because I've done that before, but these even flow Riptide shafts are great, and they're really, really light, 50 grams, so I like those. Here is the driver. How exciting is this? Plastic for protection, and oh man. Oh my god, that leather smells so nice. It's like climbing into a brand new car. You can see that we have this little silver cutout here at the top of this awesome looking head cover, and that's because this is the Gen 4 with that aluminum vapor finish. So if I pull this sucker off, like I said, smells so rich and creamy like a shoe store, and boom, there is the driver. I'm excited about checking this one out. Now, I will go ahead and just show you right here. This says 0811 XT, and the T means tour, and they are not playing around. That is not just a marketing thing to say. They are not trying to market to people who are like, I think I should be a tour player. I want to play what the tour pros play. This driver is no joke. This driver is literally for tour players or people who really are amateurs by choice, because this driver is kind of intimidating, and there is almost no reason that I should have this driver, but I picked it up for a very specific special project that I'm working on, so I'm excited to see if I can get this to work for that. But that being said, as you can see here, we do have this aluminum vapor top. It's this carbon fiber top crown with this middle portion that has this silver-like finish. You can see the weave in there, and that helps stiffen it up without adding any measurable weight, but it gives it this really cool like black and white tuxedo look. As you can see, it looks a little similar here. I can already tell some differences from my other Gen 4 driver, and I want to get into those because it's funny to me that on the PXG website, they aren't as generous with specs about their drivers as some of the other websites for some of the other clubs, because I can get everything from head size in cubic centimeters to the types of weights that are in here to the total weight of the head, those types of things. And so they do put kind of your standard numbers up there, but I really think that there are going to be some pretty big differences. Now on the bottom, it actually looks pretty similar. We have a front weight, a rear weight, and a heel weight. Gone is the toe weight that you might have expected in the Protos on the Gen 3s, basically, and that was because of underutilization of it. Basically, I think this advertised itself at 206 grams or something like that, and so it's kind of standard size, it's kind of standard weight, but you can get other weights in different values here and really dial the sucker in, which is what I really love. So if you love a heavy golf club, you don't have to hot melt this sucker. You can just get some really heavy weights. If you like a light club, you can go underweight on it. If you really want to put some really heavy weight down on the heel, you can do that too. I mean, it may seem simple to use removable screw weights instead of a sliding weight, but it actually makes a huge difference. And I love that the Mavericks used to do this. I actually didn't like that the Callaways went back to sliding weights. I know most people loved it. Most people won't have to do much but quickly adjust those. But for you that like to tinker or really get into the fitting or change things over time, I think these like screw-in weights are really the bomb. Now here is where it starts getting interesting. 7.5 degrees of loft, and that's because I usually use these PXG heads with an auto flex shaft, which ends up giving me a lot more dynamic loft. And so normally at my low swing speed, you would never play a 7.5 degree driver, but in my case, it seems to work all right. Now, what I want to do here is go ahead and actually pull out my driver. This one is the 0811X, and this is a pretty forgiving driver. It's not quite the most forgiving, but it's the only one that came in the 7.5 degrees that I really wanted, and this is the XT. Now, I will tell you right off the bat, there are some differences. It might not be that easy to show on camera. I'm trying to center it right on the lens right there, but you can see the X has a much taller face, and that's actually what I wanted over the XT with a much shallower face. This almost looks kind of circular, kind of squat because of how tall that face is. So that is my first little comparison right there. All right, if we look on the bottom here, I actually think the footprints for both of these is about the same. Just looking down on them, you know, footprint and the top, there is very little difference to me. If I just put them down side by side, they don't look that much different. I know that the Tour, the X here, has a little bit more of a teardrop shape. You can kind of see it in that rounded, more blunt toe right on here, right? So it's a pretty subtle difference. That's what I can tell is the difference. Now, where I think that this is a 460cc driver and this is sub 460cc is just how much shallower that face is. If I flip them this way in front of you too, what you can see here is that the bottom of the X driver here hugs the ground a lot more, right? That top crown really droops all the way back down to the ground. And on the XT here, everything is much flatter. It actually looks a lot more like a fairway would to me, right? So what you have here is that shallower face being reflected in a lot less dramatically sloped crown, and what looks to me like actually the base of the club kind of rolls up a little higher. Actually, kind of like the original Callaway Maverick driver versus the Maverick Max driver. So just a little bit flatter, just a little bit more fairwood would-like, which is something that I was actually looking for. All right, so what you're probably wondering is what weight come in here. I think they're 2.5 grams and then a 10-gram weight, and I think that 10-gram weight is right up here in the front. So I'm just gonna pull out everything and take a look. Now, this actually reminds me a little bit in terms of philosophy of like the Callaway Maverick Sub-Zero. You know, something that's tour focused, something that's not quite as forgiving. Obviously, a smaller face will do that. 10 grams right there. And so it's for the better player, the player that hits squarely in the sweet spot more regularly. For a lot of us that hit off-center shots, almost anything but this club is going to be the right thing. And then 2.5 grams in the back. So don't let your ego go out and buy this club if your swing can't cash the check. And then 2.5 grams in the heel as well. So what we've got here is basically the same weight setup as the other club. So you'll get the same included weights, but you can move them around. And so if you want a low spinning, low launch, line drive driver, then I think you'll want to leave it in that standard configuration. And if you are really good at hitting the sweet spot, but you fade it a lot, then you can move that heavy weight into the heels. Then I am going to actually not totally explain what I'm doing here, but because it's not that easy to measure volume, the way I'm actually going to do it is I'm going to fill a Pyrex dish with water and then submerge both of these drivers to see how much that water level rises. And I'm going to mark both of those, and then I am going to fill it to that second level and remove the water with a ladle into a measuring cup to figure out how much each of these clubs display. So this is going to be a pretty homebrew little experiment here. I just have this dish and I'm going to submerge each of these heads and mark the water levels when submerged and when fully removed, and then I will use the difference to calculate how big each of these heads are. All right, I'm always curious too what these things actually weigh, and with the stock weights in there, this is coming in with just the head, just that head, 194 grams, so a little less than what they're advertising on the website. All right, after my hacky little measurement system, I actually figured out that I don't think there's any differences in the size of these club heads. So based on my little homebrew experiment, it looks like my 0811X is 460 cc's and this one is 458 cc's, and just the way I measure the water may account for that. So I really was thinking that, especially with this shallower face here, that this would be a smaller head. But what I think is that the bottom here is more bulbous, and so I think there is just as much volume to this as any other club. Now that's a little disappointing to me. I wish I could have verified some of this data on the spec sheets because what I was really hoping for is a club that was just a little smaller overall. You know, basically what I'm trying to do here is find something that will replicate a 2 wood. And so this is not really any different, especially at address, to me than a regular driver. And so I'm still on the hunt for that. But what this is it's basically a less forgiving, player-focused driver with a smaller sweet spot, with a smaller face, that probably will help the people with 110 mile or 120 mile per hour clubhead speeds that you might pick up 1 more mile per hour. But I'm not even going to try playing this because for the vast majority of us, and certainly for people like me, I can't see that there's anything here that's going to be an improvement. It's just going to hurt my game. So that's why I'm not going to even hit it, because there's certainly no reason to share my data with you on it. To me, this is really something like the Callaway Sub-Zero, really meant for people who want a lot of control over their shots, to shape their shots, and are really consistent about hitting the sweet spot. So if you want to pick up this XT, and if you have more talent on the golf course than I do, it may help you out. I will put a link to PXG stuff in the description below. Peter Von Panda, out.
We can discover more.